Well, we're working on the front end today, specifically the steering rack. I checked the gaiters on both sides, and they're in pretty good condition. They're still soft and no leaks. So I took the front of the rack off, the cover that covers the bolt that mounts to the steering arm, drained a very tiny amount of oil out of it, and so I took the top cover off and removed all of this. And what this does is it's a pinion gear, and it moves the rack rod back and forth with the gear on it, and it is held by pressure with this little, I guess that's copper or brass, I don't know, plunger with a fairly stout spring underneath it, and it goes in that dude right there. This slips inside of the rack, and then there are a number of shims that allow varying pressure of this spring and this plunger against the steering rack rod, and that's what kind of gives your tension to the rod. And you can see, let's wipe this off, got a bit of a groove in there. It's not terrible, but it is more than I like. So I was going to go ahead and replace this, but that's like 30 or 40 bucks for this little guy right here. So what you can do is you can see the groove that was worn from the steering rack. If you turn this sideways, then you're riding on a good spot here. And then you put your spring back in here. This guy. Those guys right there, put it back together. We'll fill it up with oil, which was another kind of an interesting endeavor. They recommend EP90 weight, GL4, not GL5. I don't know, information's kind of sketchy on that. They say GL5 is bad for yellow metals, and this is a yellow metal. And it also goes in the differential, and there is also copper shims in the differential. So I wanted to use the correct oil in there, and that's not easy to find. I'm sorry, that's very difficult to find. This was about the only jug I can find in the city in which I live, and it is EP gear oil, 90 weight, and it's GL4, it's not GL5 standards. I think there's some additives in GL5 that are not good for some of these older parts. I'm not 100% sure about that. That's kind of the information that I gathered, but it's not real clear on that. So I just figured I'd go with what the book recommends. So that's the current project. After that's done, look at that. Look at that. Look at that tie rod end. No boots whatsoever on either side. So I have new tie rod ends. I'll go ahead and put those on. Then do a front end alignment. I actually am considering buying new front brake rotors because these are pretty funky. So I'm gonna go look that up, see how much the front brake rotors are. Maybe I'll mic them. I might be able to get them turned at the local auto shop. Let me check that first. I'll check and see if I can just get them turned, unless they're really cheap. But anyway, that's current project. Peace.